Good morning, good afternoon, good night. Welcome to One Coffee with Kavanah. You know, I know that you will not guess where I came this time. This is Chennai. Chennai is in India. Look around, and this is a really nice city. And we came here with a coffee with Kavanah because we will move from memory to dialogue and from dialogue to understanding. And today's conversation sits right at the intersection of identity, courage, and public narrative. Why voices from outside a community sometimes matter most when that community is under pressure. My guest, John Martyn, who is here, wrote a piece titled Why Israel Needs Non Jewish Voices. John argues that when Jewish people defend Israel, their words are too often dismissed as self interested. And that is precisely where non Jewish allies, John, have a responsibility to show up, not to speak over, but to stand with truth, to challenge misinformation, and refuse silence. So, John, welcome to the show. And before we go into these big ideas, I would like to start with a human story behind your voice. Kavanah always begins with the personal roots of a world view. Your essay shares key moments growing up in Muslim majority environments, encountering hostility toward Jews, and later living in Israel that didn't just inform your opinion, so reshape your identity. So, John, welcome to the show. Thank you very much. Let me go to my first idea. When did you first realize that the way people talk about Jews or Israel wasn't just politics, but something deeper, a story people have in their minds?
Hi, Roberto, and firstly, thank you for letting me be on the show. Regarding the question you have, I would say it goes way back to when I was a school kid, back when I was growing up in Saudi Arabia, of all places, but this was in the 90s. So now it's a very different place from what I'm hearing. Back then, and as I wrote in the blog, one of my names was actually my first name, actually Baraka. It's basically a Jewish name, and I didn't know much about it. I didn't really care. I'm a non-Jew, but my parents were pretty religious, and they gave that name. But I noticed the way my friends, or so-called friends back then, were always against Israel, and it seemed a norm back there. I mean, it's always against the Jewish people. It didn't really bother me much, but I guess when it got personal to me, when even my name was also there, I guess I kind of started relating. And also, I guess my intrigue towards theology and the Bible, etc., that also played a part, but that played a part later. But it was
Yes.
really early on as a kid that started my interest in as to why the Jewish people are being tarnished all over for no reason.
No reason, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that made me start researching as time went on all the weird conspiracy theories that people come up with when it comes to the Jewish people. And now we have voices in America like the Candace Owens and the Tucker Carlsons who come up with even messed up theories about Charlie Kirk and his assassination, etc. So it feels like an obligation, knowing what I know, to stand up for Israel and the Jewish people. And the other reason is the relatability factor, Roberto, because I always feel that Israel and the Jewish people are the ultimate underdogs. And I always feel like I'm also an underdog in many cases in this. So I always feel like I have to support them. And because forget about many other factors. Just the simple fact that the Jewish people have given so much to civilization, whether it's medicine, technology, you name it, including the spiritual stuff, theology.
Yes.
So if people are going to go against the Jewish people, it makes no sense. And they're just the tiniest portion in the world, giving so much to the world and to humanity. So only a good person, not just a good um, person with moral values, deep down, they have to stand up for Israel, and no matter what, stick with them if you have a conscience. That's what I feel.
Great. Let me fly on time. We were talking about when you were living in Saudi Arabia. Then time is, moving from here to there. You lived on a kibbutz in Israel in 2014. What was the most surprising gap between what you'd been told there, Saudi Arabia, and what you experienced on the ground?
I would say that everything that have been thought about Israel, the moment I landed and the way people were towards me, is completely the opposite of what I was told. I mean, mainstream media and a lot of people have this idea that the Jewish people are racist and all that nonsense, but it's the opposite. They were so loving. I guess maybe because I'm Indian too, that's another reason. But they were so loving and kind from the moment I needed help for everything, including oh, I can't remember. Even the first day, I kind of messed up with the bus transport to go to the kibbutz, but there was a lovely guy who was willing to help me from one bus to another bus and show me every direction. I was pretty nervous, but I still can't forget those memories. And it was one of the best times I ever had. And during that time, incidentally, one of my best friends in that kibbutz was a Muslim guy, which is interesting, because people keep this picture over like in the world, like the Muslims are treated bad and etc. But he was really nice, and to be honest, I couldn't discuss conversations like I did with that Muslim compared to other places in the world, like where I lived in the Middle East or India. I guess because Muslims in Israel have seen how kind the Jewish people are, or maybe that's the difference, I would say. But that guy was really rational and he was a really nice person. Of course, the Jewish people were amazing towards me. I didn't, every, every stereotype they have against the Jewish people never occurred to me. I had actually some of the best experiences there. One of my best experiences in my life, I would say, getting to meet people with from so many different cultures and backgrounds in a kibbutz. I'm actually recommending this to people who are young, etc. If they ever want to get to know Israel, go at that age, at 18 or whatever. And if you're confused about what you want to do in life, go there, meet a lot of people, and then find for yourself before you go to college, etc. Just go and find who you are, and then decide what you want to be. Because it was a great experience, and the best part is all the things you see on TikTok, the reels, etc., against Israel, the anti-Israel propaganda. You will find out yourself when you go to a kibbutz in Israel what exactly is the truth, and then. I would also recommend this. Go to Israel, and if you can, also go and stay in an Islamic country for more than 6 months. Live there and see the difference. Because if you just live in Israel, you would probably come up with this conclusion that that Israel is racist or whatever. But you try live and contrast both the differences. I've lived in an Islamic country. I know how they can treat a minority, and believe me, I've had some experiences that I cannot divulge on camera. I'm sorry, on the video, but
Yeah.
there were some bad experiences I had. So compare that with what I had in Israel. I mean, I'm sure Israel has its flaws, but it's nothing compared to the flaws you can experience as a minority in an Islamic country. It's definitely nothing. Compared to that, even to my country, which is India, I would say Israel is far better in many things. For me to see people who are against Israel promoting on TikTok or in other places tiny flaws about their government or Netanyahu or something else, it's laughable because I know so many corrupt politicians in my country and other places. It's just really something amusing to watch in there. So please actually compare by going to these places yourself. Also, reading a lot of books, not just on the pro-Palestinian side. Try to also read books on the pro-Zionist side in there, and then go and see for yourself. There are guys I can recommend, like Kasim Hafiz, I believe he's a British Pakistani Muslim who went to Israel himself after thinking that Israel is an evil place, a Zionist entity, and all that. And he found out for himself, and now he's a pro-Israel Zionist guy promoting all over there. So go for yourself and find out instead of believing what's on TikTok, etc.
You're right. I mean, one recommendation and one good recommendation is to both stay in Israel for 6 months or whatever, 6 weeks, and then fly to another Muslim country and see the difference between one and the other. I mean, if you go to Israel and then you fly to Qatar and you feel the difference, I mean, it's not only food. I mean, there's a big difference, and it's a good recommendation. Any Was there a specific moment while you were there, a conversation, friendship, when you felt I can't stay neutral anymore? Maybe you were in Israel or when you were back in India.
Yes, I actually had a good conversation in Jerusalem, actually, of all places, with a Canadian girl. I remember that she was very pro-Palestinian, by the way. And I met her at a bar, and then we went outside the bar and we had a long discussion, a really long discussion, because she was obviously supporting the pro-Palestinian agenda. This was way back in 2014, so it's not anything recent. This was around the time when those 2014, 2015. This was around the time when those three kids were kidnapped. And I was there during that time period.
Correct.
And so she was trying to tell me about a lot of things which she witnessed on her own. And I tried to explain, and I was debating her. I think it went for hours, and then we finally gave up, went inside. But I was trying to debate her with points regarding why Israel is on the right, why it's from the secular perspective, and how many times Israel tried to make peace with the Palestinian side. And it's not just once or twice. It's, if I'm correct, more than 5 times. They tried to give the Palestinians a state of their own, and yet the Palestinian side turned it down every time. And I think some of the recent ones were in the 2000s when Bill Clinton himself tried recommending it. So these were the kind of things I discussed with, and I feel, and this is the thing I've always sensed with people in the West, it's like a white guilt kind of thing, especially when they see people in Israel and the Palestinian side. They conflate it with colonialism for some reason, and they feel like the Palestinians are the black people who are suppressed, or, I mean, they conflate it in that sense in there, and they don't realize whatever mistakes America and the Brits have done, it has nothing to do with the Jewish people in Israel. And they're completely different entities altogether. Because let's be honest, America did do a lot of mistakes in the Middle East, and even the Brits, and a lot of innocent people died. I'm not denying that. But when you compare people with a jihadist ideology to kill Jews because they believe in the hadiths that state that killing Jews is good for their God, and you're supporting them, and you don't have a clue about how the East values religion versus how the West is. I mean, because they're two different cultures. So a lot of people in the West have no clue about this. Especially if you come to India too, you will find that it's very relatable in there because they value God. It's a very different kind of mindset. So if people can actually start not thinking in a rational, logical perspective in that sense, and actually start understanding that this is a different culture, I don't know anything, and be humble enough to accept that you don't know anything about this culture, and go and explore on yourself, explore by yourself, you have a chance of actually understanding this conflict and realize that no matter what, Israel is always going to be targeted. And they are the good guys. They're doing their best to limit the damage, to limit the casualties, and yet they're always targeted as the bad guys for no reason other than trying to be the good guys. Uh, Maybe I guess it's one of the reasons why I like some of these superhero characters like Superman. When you try to do the good thing there, and still people think you're the bad guy. In a way, that's how Israel is. When you still try to do the right thing, people still try to make you look like you're the worst person ever in there, and that's unfortunately Israel's cross to bear, so to speak. And if you are a person with a good conscience and research all this, do your best. I'm sorry, you were going to say something,
No,
Roberto.
no, 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 no,
Uh,
no. Please go ahead. Well,
okay.
anyway,
Well,
no, I was thinking about be humble. Yeah, be humble, and it's important to be humble, especially from the Western for the Western people, because the way the Middle East and the mentality there is totally different from the Western people. And when you go and you, even if you just see TikTok and you see some of the media around the world, and that's it, and you don't have had the opportunity to go and fly what we were talking before, and to see that there is a difference between the Middle East ideas, the Middle East mentality, where to do, where to go, the tribes and all that. I mean, you need to be able to say, yeah, I need to learn more. And because of that, let me unpack what you mean by non-Jewish voices and what you don't mean. When you say Israel needs non-Jewish voices, what responsibility are you placing on allies? And what are the boundaries so it doesn't become, activism? There's a big difference there.
okay. I'm trying to understand a bit of the last part of that question, but the main thing I feel as a non-Jew, we have that obligation for our own survival. It's not just for the Jewish people's survival. Uh, Even if you, let's just say hypothetically, you're indifferent and you don't want to support the Jewish people out of some reason, your own survival is at stake. If you want, I mean, your own civilization, especially people in the West, with how, um, especially the last 2 years, I guess from October 7th, I've done a lot of research on. I'm a Christian, the tradition, not the traditional kind. So I've researched the history of how Islam has relations with Christianity over the last for the last 1400 years, and it's shocking that I didn't know so much because I thought I knew from the history I learned at school and other places in there. But the history is it makes whatever Christians did during their colonial period, it makes them look like their Mother Teresa. I mean, that's how bad the Islamic conquests were. It's really that bad. I mean, when you just look at the millions that died in the name of Islam, and I'm not condoning what the Christians did too. I'm not saying what they did was really good. They did a lot of bad things. But what I'm saying is, if you research the history of what Islam has done and how it's so frustrating that it's hidden, and even a lot of historians, especially from a lot of these colleges, they don't want to divulge this history. Maybe they're getting paid by Qatar or all these other places, and they're trying to cover up all these crimes for some reason in there. Maybe an agenda. That's a better way of putting it. But if you actually research some of these things, like there's a guy called Raymond Ibrahim. I highly recommend his books. Or even if you want to watch his videos on YouTube, you will find out that history and why this is important. And this connects to Israel. If you understand that this ideology is also against Jews and Christians, this is something. It's maybe it's something that is not politically correct, but you have to address this issue in there. I'm not against Muslims. I love them. I have some of my best friends are Muslims, but Islam does teach some things which are actually deadly towards Christians and Jews, and a lot of infidels in there. You don't see, for instance, I'm actually writing a piece on the one they talk about the Amalekites, for instance. They always bring that up and say the Amalekites, Amalekites. Well, the Amalekites don't exist anymore. I mean, they're not there anymore. Whereas the Christians and Jews, they're there. I mean, and if you want to eliminate them, and in your doctrine, it states that if you eliminate the Jewish people, that you're doing a favor, a service for God. Basically, in their hadiths is mentioned to kill in the end times. The stones will. It's really ridiculous when you read that kind of text. But picture yourself in a place like Gaza where you're impoverished. I mean, if you're poor, you don't have, a means to live, and someone comes to you and offers you a lot of money if you kill Jews, and they show a text from their holy text saying that you do this, you're doing this for God. You kill Jews, you're doing this for God. I mean, it makes sense if you're a poor person, you have nothing else to do in your life. So you have to really put yourself in that position to understand. And to do that, you have to accept and be humble, like I stated earlier, that you don't know what the East is about. The East is a completely different ball game. And once you realize that, and then you try to understand the situation, then there's a chance that you can see the picture. People like Tucker Carlson, for instance, he's going to Qatar all the time and other places. He's one of those elitists. He thinks he knows a lot of things about the conflict, and I'm sorry to say this, he might be an expert in certain geopolitics, although I think he's dumb. I'm sorry to use that word.
Okay. Okay.
But when it comes to religion, he's really illiterate. I mean, he has no clue what he's talking about when it comes to theology, and especially as a Christian. And if a Christian is watching this, I'm telling you, please do not believe his nonsense against Israel. There's nothing in the Bible, whether it's in the Old Testament or even in the New Testament, that goes against Israel. In fact, as a Christian, Jesus was all for Israel, even more than even the non-Jews. So I can even tell you the verses too, but I just want you to know, please don't waste time on people like Tucker Carlson's. There are so many good biblical resources online for free. And read the Bible in its Hebraic context. That's the most important thing. Don't read the Bible from a context that is, I would say, kind of Gentile oriented. If you read it in the Hebraic context, you will understand that the Jewish people, Israel, are really important in God's plan. So especially if you're a Christian in there, I'm a real Christian. So I was also trying to talk about the secular side, but I'm also trying to also address the spiritual side, because a lot of Christians are getting confused when they see people like Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens coming out with these anti-Semitic nonsense all across the internet. And people like me, we try to address that by small videos or go to X and try to counter the nonsense that they're putting out. Because if you're truly a good Christian and you love Christ and the Bible and everything, you have to stand for his people. I mean, it's non-negotiable. You have to do it. It's something you must do. And then at the end of the day, your conscience is clean. You can say that I've done whatever I could. I mean, I was also talking to a Jewish person a few days back, and I told, if I had the opportunity to volunteer with the IDF, I would, but I couldn't. So the least thing I can do is promote all over the internet why Israel is on the right. So that's the only way I can help. So that's what I'm trying to say. If you find a way you can help the Jewish people in Israel, do it. Don't fixate on one person, like I think the Ben Smoldridge, I'm not sure what's his name, the right-wing person or Netanyahu or anything against that in there. Don't fixate on one person, and because every human has flaws. Whatever you want to say, every human has flaws in there. The Jewish people and Israel are by far better than most countries. I would say even definitely better than my country, the way they govern their people and the minorities, etc. Sure, they have a couple of flaws here and there, but who doesn't? But nothing like the Islamic countries around them, who pretend like they're all for peace and they love Jews, etc. And there, when there are almost 2 million Arabs in Israel, and there are 0 Jews in Gaza and West Bank, especially in Gaza, unless it's a dead Jew or a hostage. So when a person says that nonsense, Roberto, it kind of pricks me. Like, you really don't know what you're talking about, because you're just listening to propaganda on reels, etc. And that is why it's important to please read and take your time away from all these reels and just read some good books. We can, I'm sure even Roberto would recommend, even I can recommend a lot of good books
Many.
to read. Yeah. And also don't believe also what's in the books. Go to Israel, go to those countries like I stated in there earlier, and find out for yourself who's telling the truth. Because you can see for yourself by comparison. Like I said, when I was in Islamic countries, uh, I did feel the difference. In Israel, you're pretty free, and people are really loving. They're really sweet. If you need to help with anything, they're more than ready to drop everything and help you out. And well, the one more thing I want to say is I can relate to, I guess, a lot is Mossab Hassan Yusuf. I love that guy because maybe the similarities comes with the fact that he's also lived in Islamic societies for a long time, and he can see the difference between that and Israel. So that especially people who have lived in Islamic countries, I feel you have the obligation to stand by Israel because you know the truth, especially if you go to Israel and see it there, and you have to do it. It's otherwise, I would say that for me, I would consider myself a coward if I don't do it. So I have to do it there.
Good. I mean, that is amazing. I mean, and it's so true. You wrote that Christians need to admit the historic anti-Semitism within Christianity. What does honestly accountability look like in 2026 beyond statements and slogans? And your voice, it's very important in this answer.
True. And this is a very good question you've asked, Roberto, because a lot of Christians have no clue about the anti Semitism in their church history. No clue.
No.
And I'll be honest, I come from an evangelical background. It's very different from the Catholic background, which is the source of a lot of anti Semitism. But if you ask either, they wouldn't have any clue about what happened, whether it's the Spanish Inquisition or even way before that and other places in there. It's only people like me who has an interest in history, who researched a little bit there. We know about the crimes that the church has committed against the Jewish people, misusing the name of Jesus Christ. But because what Jesus says, if you actually read the scriptures, he's pro for the Torah the Torah of Moshe. He is pro-Israel. He's more pro-Israel than pro-Gentile. I'm sorry to say this. I'm a Gentile, and I'm saying that, okay? He's more pro-Israel than a Gentile. So for the church to actually come and say that, we can kill Jews because they denied Jesus, they have no clue what they're messing with. I mean, when it comes to the spiritual aspect in there. So I need a Christian who's watching this to understand that if you really love Jesus, show unconditional love to the Jewish people. That means don't try to manipulate or don't try to do any nonsense there. Just show real love. I mean, just show that you care for them. You're there as a brother or as a sister, and help them in whatever way they can. I have a lot of Jewish friends, and they're going through a lot of anxiety and depression, whether it's in Israel or anywhere else in the world, and they need a shoulder to talk to vent out. Just be there for them. You don't have to, even talk about religion or anything else. Just listen to them, show them real care and compassion, and you will understand their history and why that they have this angst against Christians, and they're justified. I mean, the Christian history. If you go through it, including the Nazis, they even use Martin Luther as their as their reason. Martin Luther is a Protestant, and he has said disgusting, vile things against Jews. And if I'm correct, Hitler and the Nazis used that propaganda against the Jews before they did the disgusting things and the Holocaust. So, as a Christian, I feel like you need to know this history, and then you will realize why we do have this huge obligation to make up for all those crimes that was done in the centuries. Maybe it's not you who have done it, or your ancestors haven't done it. I'm trying to address the Christians who are listening to me. It is our obligation to support the Jewish people because of this, because of also, more importantly, what Jesus says in the Bible about the Jewish people and how much he loves them. So even if you don't want to believe the history, follow exactly what Jesus does. So do that, and your thing is and your conscience is clean. So you don't have to even believe the history. Just go through exactly the source material, who you believe in, Jesus. Find out from him. Don't waste time on and especially as a Christian and many other people, we grow up with people saying this. I guess maybe things like, the Jews are controlling this, the Jews are controlling that, the banks, whatever. Okay, whoever has taught you that, okay, they're either lazy, they have no idea what they're talking about, they have not researched anything, they've not understood that the Jews were thrown out of so many institutions and they had to work their asses off. I'm sorry for the word again, but they had to work a lot to get to the positions they are. They didn't get anything free or anything handed down to them. They had to really work there. And just because you're lazy and you can't admit that you haven't done that part, whoever says things like the Jews are controlling that, etc., always be suspicious of those people when they start saying lines like that, because they've learned something which is not in line, which is not in line with the Bible, which is not in line with anything in the scripture in there. They've definitely learned something which is not, which is, I guess, maybe lazy doctrines in there. So try to, my recommendation to many Christians is explore Israel, learn the Bible in its Hebraic context. Try to learn the Bible in that side. And if you do that, without a doubt, I swear, most Christians will start loving Israel. It's just a no-brainer. They will love Israel in there. But if you don't learn the Bible in the Hebraic context, and you learn it in doctrines from men, Gentile doctrines in there, you're going to come up with all these weird conspiracy theories like the Jews are controlling nonsense, etc. And then you start blaming Israel and you blame everything on the Jewish people in there. So make sure you actually get the facts right.
Good. Can I dig a little bit? If there's a church community or any community wanted to rebuild trust with the Jews in a real way, what are two concrete steps that you would recommend starting this month?
Two concrete steps for a Christian to take. Is that what I understood, Roberto?
Yeah, to a church. Yeah, let's go to a church community, and you're going to recommend, because with all your experiences, guys, we need to start changing our mind when we're talking about Jews. Two concrete steps that you would recommend, and you are talking to many people there.
Okay, that's now I get the question properly, Roberto. As much as I criticized Islamists for many things, the one thing I actually like about them is they actually put the effort to study the Quran in Arabic, its original source. Why I brought this up is, if you're a Christian, trust me, the original source in the Bible is mostly in Hebrew and a little bit of Aramaic, and with the New Testament, it's in Greek. Put the effort to actually understand the Bible in its original source. You don't have to take my word. You don't have to take a pastor's or a priest's word. Just research it on your own. That's the one thing I like about a lot of these Islamists. They actually try to research their Quran in their original source. Although, as a person who's researched Islam, Judaism, and Christianity in some of their original sources, I would say that Judaism has got more things right than you can imagine. And Christianity, as a Christian, the only thing I actually accept 100% is Jesus Christ. Besides that, a lot of things I don't accept with traditional Christianity. I'm sorry to say that. But unfortunately, when it comes to Islam, it is, let me put it this way. A lot of the characters in the Bible are the same in Islam, but the stories are way different if you actually research it in there. So that is the part which people don't even realize. A lot of Muslims come and say to you, we serve the same God, we serve the same prophets, etc. But you actually don't realize that the stories are completely different in Islam, in the Quran. So once you actually divulge and research that, then you realize, okay, maybe there's a red flag. That's some of the things which comes up. But as a Christian, I would say research to your question, research the original sources. I would recommend, there are some free sources online itself. There are men who put the effort as a Christian to bridge the gap between Jews and Christians, and they try to understand the Bible in its original source, and they try to bridge that gap and try to make this kind of connection in there. And I want you as a Christian to understand and just come from a logical perspective that the Bible is written by Hebrews, barring two books, the book of Acts, and I mean, as a Christian, I'm sorry, because I know Jews also might be watching this. In the New Testament, only two books were written by a Gentile, Luke. That was the book of Luke and the book of Acts. All the rest of the Bible is written by Jews, Hebrews, Jews, whatever you want to call it. It was written by them. So respect the people who wrote the book. Respect them because it's their culture. It is their traditions that we have to understand. It is not the other way around. We don't put our traditions onto, or our Gentile traditions onto the Bible. I mean, we have to respect the tradition and then see how it plays out. So please do that. There are church communities who recommend, I would say, maybe the messianic communities, but that's very limited. But I would say go online itself. There are a lot of free sources. There are even Bibles where you can just see the Hebrew translations and the English versus the Greek. Why this is important is because the simple explanation would be if you watch a movie in subtitles, any movie, okay, and you see the subtitles, and you sometimes see the translations are not correct, and it's laughable. Just think about that when it comes to the Bible. It was translated from Hebrew to Greek to Latin to English. So you can imagine how many translation errors could have happened during that time period in there. And when we laugh at a simple movie translation, just think about that when it comes to the Bible. So make the effort and actually try and study the Bible in its original source. And like I said, Jesus says in the Bible that he came for the Jewish people and he came for the lost sheep of Israel in the book of Matthew chapter 15. And he says that he came for the lost sheep of Israel. And that is when he was talking to a Gentile woman, actually, and she wanted her daughter healed. But he actually, if you research that source, it's very controversial. I'm sorry if I'm bringing up the Bible source,
No,
but I
no,
just
no.
wanted.
It's great because I mean, this is a good recommendation for people all around the world that what they should do. And then kind of a little interruption on this one. You're a courage guy, and your social content suggests that you are actively confronting anti-Semitism in public conversation. I'm talking about online and also in educational spaces. And you emphasize and also continue with what you were talking about language, framing, and facts. What's your strategy when you engage online? Are you trying to persuade the person in front of you? Because now you are talking about, I mean, I'm recommending. Or what is your action there? Because you're very active in this one.
I guess maybe I'm doing it a lot for myself in a way to clear my conscience,
Yes.
knowing the scriptures, etc. But also, you asked a very good question, Roberto, especially on the anti-Semitic front. The fact is that a lot of people who are anti-Semitic at their core, they can never be persuaded. No matter what you
No.
try, they cannot be persuaded. However, there are people who are in the middle. They're not really sure if they should be supporting Israel or they should not be supporting Palestine. They just want to get on with their life. Those people, I want to target them mostly because I want them to know the facts and let them really research and let the questions always try to finish with a question. I learned this from a mentor some time back. Ask them good questions, like, for instance, did you know that Israel gave the Palestinians wanted the Palestinians to have a state more than 5 times? They did that. Ask them those kind of relevant questions, and make the person actually research on their own. And those kind of questions, and also try to show videos and facts. There are some places like prageru.com where they talk about the Israel-Palestine conflict. They offer quick 5-minute videos, which is really helpful to understand about the West Bank and Gaza in 1967, how the war happened, and how nobody cared when the Muslims were having, when the Jordanians were having the West Bank, and when the Egyptians were having Gaza. But when Israel came into the picture, and after they defeated, now it's occupied territory. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. So it's fine when these guys occupy it. So those kind of things, right? You have to let people know, and especially the people in the middle, when they see those kind of content, I feel like they'll start questioning their sanity, and there's a good chance those people can come to the truth and support Israel. But the ones who are anti-Semitic, you can, the max you can do as a Christian is pray for them. That's the only thing you can do, because you cannot convince them with facts. You cannot convince them with a lot of the information. Even if you show all the hardcore facts, even if you bring the bodies from October 7th and show it to them, they'll still believe some nonsense from the pro-Palestinian side because of the way they were raised. I would say it's most to do with how they were raised. And that's one of the reasons why I always try to find out exactly who gave them this anti-Semitic upbringing in there. A lot of people come up with those kind of theories in there, so that's important. But yeah, I try my best all across social media. X is, I guess, the best. It's a cesspool. I would say it's bad. It's a bad place, but the only place where you can actually be really free to mention elaborately. Although X is also dangerous for another reason, because there's a lot of bots, Iranian bots and Pakistani bots. You can see that in some posts. Like, for instance, when Candace Owens or Tucker Carlson post something, suddenly their post gets liked a lot, or flooded a lot, or reposted a lot. And you go through their accounts specifically, and you can see that the profiles look pretty suspicious, like it's made in seconds or something in there, and you can tell it's probably some Iranian bot or some Pakistani bot or something, and obviously they're against Israel. So it's you can see. And now with AI, what they do is it kind of is simple. So they use AI and they copy paste answers, and they use that to sound like there are some white nationalist Christian. And you can look at their profile and you can tell they're nothing like that in there. So those are the kind of things you have to be really suspicious about, especially on X. So on social media, it's pretty tough. But I would have to say that, I'm sorry if I'm diverting, Israel has to also, and I'm sure Benjamin Netanyahu and Israel are doing it now, and talks with a lot of Israelis also, that they have to invest a lot on the social media front, because the younger generation, unlike the older generation in America, they're pretty different. I mean, they're easily gullible to pro-Palestinian propaganda on TikTok. The older generation were not like that. They were more, I guess, religious and also had some values. But the younger generation, these are the people that people need to be careful of. And that's the reason we need to make more social media content, maybe even 1 minute, 2 minute reels explaining about, in short, compressed format, why Israel is right. And let people make up their minds, even if they let them have the choice to decide if they want to do, still don't want to research, or still lazy, or follow the crowd, then that's up to them. But it's up to us to try and put the effort to show them the truth about Israel and the Jewish people, of course.
John, I mean, that was great. I mean, this is I would say, a good toolkit for the people that also would like to start being an ally. What you are doing in India and your experiences, it's amazing. We know time is flying now. I would like to say thank you very much for this kind of conversation, because this is not a political message. It's a moral posture. I mean, I'm talking with someone who is really Christian, believe in and what you were telling us, and it's a story of humility, really humble. You are very honest, and you refuse silence when people are being dehumanized, and this is very important. So, to everyone listening, you don't need a platform of millions to matter. Don't go to TikTok and all that propaganda. Sometimes the most powerful non-silence is one conversation done very well with facts and humanity. And if this episode gave you the language for something in order to articulate, share it with someone else, and we will become one, and then two, and then three, and then 4. So, John, thank you very much from India. This is One Coffee with Kavanah, from memory to dialogue, and from dialogue to understanding. See you next time with another chapter like this one. And John, we are over 50,000 subscribers, 2 million hours of, listening, watching. So, Bika, welcome to the club. And thank you very much for everybody around the world. Bye bye now.
Bye.